And yeah, just say thank you both for attending, and Sarah and Kate as well. Thank you. And we did have an agenda really for this meeting. Is the email that I sent you last week, Nigel, following your inavailability last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just wondering if there's been any progress, any discussions?
There's been, I can't find that email now. Anyway, no, I think I remember what you said. No, there's been no discussions. I've had no response from Quinn. I have sent another email to Michael with not only sending him a copy of the letter, but also highlighting some particular points regarding the MOD response and the fact that that his colleague had signed a letter, probably written by an MOD undersecretary or something, which contained inaccurate or information which did not agree with what we've subsequently been told, and pointed out that even if Jeremy Quinn MP had not written the letter, by signing it he's actually agreeing to all the contents, and therefore that it's clearly a serious matter for me that he's signing something without either understanding the contents or actually knowing that what he's given is actually correct. Now the fact that the letter that I sent to Quinn has also gone to MOD Whitehall as well as the DIO, they clearly are aware from both sides of the inconsistencies in what they've said to us. But so the letter to Quinn only went on the 21st of Jan, so it is only effectively 10 days, no, 20 days. So it's less than 3 weeks. Being a civil servant in my previous life, I know that letters to MPs tend to have a certain process that they go through, and 20 days is just not sufficient to get any sort of response. I've asked Michael, I've obviously pointed out to him that I realise it's only a short period of time since I sent the letter, but pointing out the urgency of the matter and asking him to have a word with his colleague as soon as possible.
Nigel, what do you consider to be, based on your experience, an appropriate response time to a letter of this nature?
Bearing in mind that the letter is calling into question the contents of his letter, he's going to have to go through either his assistant or one of his assistants that helps him in Parliament, who will then go to someone in the MOD and will ask them to comment on that letter and the contents. From a civil service point of view, in terms of the revenue I work for, it would then be a lot of people scuttling around trying to find the answer and seeing who's to blame or who they can actually, who's got the slopier shoulders to get away with it. But it does take time. I know that when the revenue got a letter from or in respect of an MP asking a question, there would normally be a 30-day turnaround time to get back to the person that had made the query, who would then get back to the MP, who would then probably check the contents, hopefully, and then go back to the person, normally a constituent, who had written it to him. So that process,
is that 30 working days or 30 days?
Normally it would be 30 days, but that's just for the one transaction. So it will go from the constituent to the MP. The MP would either directly or indirectly write to the head of the civil service, who would then direct it to HMRC, who would then direct it to the department. So that could take 2 weeks plus to get into the right department, and then you've got 20 working days from that time to actually find the answer. But there is the ability there to say it's complicated, it's taking time to get the information together. I've not seen it from the other end, in terms of, I don't know when that constituent who wrote the query gets the final response. I only have ever seen it from the pointy end, in terms of running around trying to find the answer to the MP's question that's been sparked off by someone. What I can say is that, if you recall, I did, when I got the response from the DIO or the MOD regarding my FOI request, I did subsequently make a complaint direct to them to start with, to say that they hadn't answered the question, and clearly their response totally ignored the H&S question that I'd raised regarding the other two firing plates, Stony Castle and what was the other one's called? Henley Gate.
Henley Park.
Yeah.
Henley Gate.
So that was acknowledged, and today is Tuesday. On Friday, I received a email from the MOD saying, basically, thank you for my complaint, which is still being worked on. They apologised for the delay and would hope to let me have a reply within the next 10 working days. So clearly they're having trouble. It's quite a simple thing. I mentioned health and safety. You talked about vandalism. The two are totally separate. Therefore, you haven't answered my FOI request. It was quite a simple clarification that I was seeking. So there clearly is an issue there. What it is, I don't know. Whether it's called through COVID, I'm not too sure. But most of these things, as we know now, I'm doing more work on Zoom and Teams than I ever did in person. I don't know how long it's going to be. All I can say is that I will chase it up. I will send up a reminder within 30 days to come in and say, I refer you to my email. Be great for a response, and perhaps you could give me some sort of idea when I might receive a full response. I have to do it in a particular way in order. I'm trying to get the response.
So you can see it from our point of view, Nigel, that we're into nearly 20 working days. The 30 days that you mentioned will be next week, and you've not had any acknowledgement from. Just tell me if I'm wrong here. You've not had any acknowledgement from Mr. Quinn. You've not had any acknowledgement.
I did email you and said I had received acknowledgement of my email from both Jeremy Quinn and Michael Gove's offices. So
okay, and the
DIO have not acknowledged my email, nor has the MOD in Whitehall, nor has the MOD or DIO locally acknowledged my email. I know that the local people won't acknowledge it because it's gone up the chain of command, and they are under strict orders not to communicate basically with us at all now. In terms of anything like this, it's all dealt with from a central point, which is Whitehall. So it's bureaucracy at its best, and having been part of that bureaucracy, I know you do have to follow the timescales and the processes.
And I don't think, frustrating though it is, exceptionally frustrating though it is, I don't think any of us take issue with the fact that these requests need to go through a due process and need to have time for them to be completed. I think what we take issue with is, clearly feet have been dragged throughout this process. What we don't want to do is for another 6 weeks to pass and then for us to plan a meeting between ourselves, wait, have the meeting, decide on something, then send a letter. I think what we want to do is, as soon as we think they've had sufficient time for that due process, to know exactly what communication is going to take place, how we're going to escalate that, with whom and in what manner.
Absolutely.
Well, this is the issue, because I'm not too sure where the next process is, apart from pressing the MP. Neither borough nor county have any sway both in terms of legal for over MOD land, and apart from potentially getting it into the well, you've already got it into the local press. Apart from getting it into sort of press coverage in order to try and cause more embarrassment to the MOD, apart from scoring a few points, it doesn't actually make them want to try and resolve the issue.
But
why only we went through a process firstly to get the MOD to talk to us. So that process started in sort of middle of May, and I thought we were making reasonable progress, although it was still very, very slow. And then, of course, we had that Zoom meeting where Colonel Cook came along and basically threw all the ducks out the bowl, and we had to start again because he brought in something that no one had heard of. And it's that inconsistency which we're now trying to get to the bottom of. And I've always found that when someone is digging a hole, it's best to give them another spade, because at the moment, they have not. The minister has not given us an answer that corresponds with what we've been told from his very own department.
So what does giving them another spade look like? What does that mean in practical terms?
Well, I would certainly not be chasing up until the 21st, 22nd of Feb, in terms of any chance of a response. I would probably do the same thing with Michael, even though I wrote to him last week. What date was it? When did I write to Michael? Just tell you when I wrote to Michael.
3rd of February, Nigel.
Was it the 3rd? Yeah. So I wrote to Michael on the 3rd of Feb. Was it the 3rd of Feb?
Yeah.
Can I just clarify that when you sent the original letter to the MOD and the DIO, did you copy Michael Gove into that as well at that time?
Yes.
When I sent the letter to Jeremy Quinn,
Yeah.
I sent the letter directly to Michael Gove.
Yeah.
I sent it also separate cover to DIO, separate cover to MOD, and separate cover local. So it wasn't a copy in; it was a separate.
Okay.
Letter.
Okay. Yeah. No. Fair enough.
On the basis that,
and then you've contacted Michael again.
Then I've contacted Michael again, attached the letter again,
yeah,
and basically saying, I know it's too early to expect a full reply, but there are these inconsistencies, and pointing out the fact that an MP did sign the letter, and that letter did not contain the same information that we've been given earlier by Ministry of Defence officials, because Colonel Cook was put up to that meeting by MOD Whitehall, not by local MOD, because they had taken over the administration of this particular issue. So whilst the MOD locally were talking to us up until September, there's been no meetings since then, and nothing online or anything like that. So it was Colonel Cook who came onto the Zoom meeting. He was given a brief by the local MOD team, and the information or the inference I'm getting from the local MOD or the DIO person was that he went totally off script. They don't know why, but obviously he was following whatever he was told to do by MOD Whitehall, and this has put them in a difficult situation. That doesn't help us. It doesn't actually get the firing plates opened, which is what the ultimate aim is, to get some sort of access to the firing plates for those people that can't go around the path. I've been up there recently, and the path is an absolute quagmire.
Exactly, and I think that's the key point here, is that we're trying to waste as little time as possible to ensure that we get those paths open as quickly as possible. Those paths currently are frozen because of the weather. Before that, were impassable for anyone with a buggy or any sort of disability, and we've not got any progress on any works to those. We've not got any progress on opening up the wider ranges, and we are basically in a holding pattern. And what we're trying to do as a group is understand what the council can do us to resolve that. Now, you've said about the implications of raising it with borough or county for legal reasons. Don't you think there's a political reasons for doing that?
There's all. The thing is, I can understand what you're saying politically, but politically, it's not political. It's not going to be political pressure that's going to necessarily make the MOD open up. It's going to be pressure to show that they have taken something away without any consultation. They could potentially still argue that because of COVID, they do not want people walking on the firing place, because the soldiers are still firing every day up there, almost every day, and COVID stays on hard surfaces for 72 hours. But
they've already said, Nigel, that's not an issue.
Well, that
was their original issue for closing.
That was what they originally said.
I don't. You can't.
And
use
then
that
they changed it to. Then they changed it to vandalism and loss of.
Exactly. Even themselves have taken back against that argument, Nigel. I don't.
They've not helped themselves in anything. So
it is the sway of the people.
MOD,
you know, it's a political decision.
The MOD's political masters are the government of the day, which is why we're chasing and pushing Quinn and Michael Gove.
You've got to understand that from our point of view, the more people, the merrier, that are under the same banner, the same approach, the same community that impact and make their voices heard will have a political impact. We saw that recently with Marcus Rashford and all the great work he's done. I'm not saying that is of importance to the community as that is. What I'm saying is the only way we're going to get our political masters changing their view and forcing the MOD to come to the table and discuss these problems is to have a more vocal voice. And at the moment, Ash Parish are basically saying we've done all we can, and there's no plan to escalate that, and that is my concern at the moment.
Well, I'm due to. I've got a meeting on. I think it's tomorrow. I've got a meeting tomorrow with a group of people, including Tim Oliver, Surrey County Council. So I'll have a discussion with him to see what it's actually on the agenda that we're talking about. But I don't want to raise expectations that all of a sudden the charges of Surrey County Council are going to come bounding along and it's all going to be okay. I tend to work. I look for the problems and hope they won't arise and try and prepare for them. So the conversation will be: we've got this problem. Can he see anywhere where he can put any pressure on government regarding the ranges? It is in Surrey. Obviously, it affects Surrey Heath as well. They've had issues too. So we'll have that conversation. It's not going to. I'm not going to be able to have as long as I would like to have, because I've got a borough council budget meeting, which will cut that meeting short. But if I get that point in early, I'm hoping that we can get that resolved before I have to leave the meeting. And there may be an opportunity towards the end of the week to have a discussion with the leader of the borough council to see where he sees the political pressure from the borough council. In some ways, if you're talking about politics, obviously the county council may have a bit more sway than the borough council, given the current sort of situation within the council in terms of it's hung. There's no political sway there. So if it's politics that you're looking to get the answer to, then it has to be dealt with via the ministers that have got the control.
One of our first meetings with you, Nigel, you said it was a political resolution to this. I'm just repeating what you said back to you to understand that it's not going to be the MOD just giving up and seeing their point. It's going to be their masters, which are the politicians, to come to understand that the impact on the community and the pressure that we're going to apply on the community is going to be the resolution here in our terms, because we understand that whether a legal challenge is made or not, that's a long and winding road, and the quickest way to resolve this will be political. And that's why I ask again, what is the plan for escalation, and what can the Ash Parish Council do to raise this with the loudest voice it possibly can?
But the parish council is escalating it. As a councillor, we have to follow process in order to try, where possible, to negotiate a solution when you haven't got any legal rights.
Can you share us that process that you're going through then?
Well, the process at the moment is we had the meetings with the MOD to discuss the closures, the reasons, and why. Reopening.
No. Have you got written down what is the written process?
The process now is talking to MPs, emails to MPs directly, in order to show that the Minister for Defence has been given incorrect information by the MOD and has signed a letter to me, which was written on behalf of the parish council, giving conflicting information, and on that basis, we need the question is to come round and talk to us in order to try and find a way forward so that the MOD can. So it's a win-win situation. The MOD get what they want, which is regular training. If this is the reason, regular training hours without vandalism, and the members of the public get access to the firing plates, so that they can actually walk on flat and level land, and that there is some tarmac roads there for people with wheelchairs, buggies, and youngsters with bikes. That's what we're looking for, and at the moment we've now got to the point where we've been able to show the MOD has been inconsistent, and we're highlighting that to the minister. The normal process would be to wait for that information, but there's no. What I want to do is not to try and do everything we can too early and then find there's nothing left in the pot. It is, as you say, an escalation, and I don't know where the end of that escalation is, to be honest.
You just described what you're doing currently, and described it as a political process, because you're raising with ministers the misinformation and all the rest of it that is going on. What I'm suggesting that we need a stepped process and understand what the next step is if we do not get a response in the appropriate manner. And this is, I'm not talking about a process. To me, is a series of stages that we go through between we've got a problem and a resolution. If we don't get a result that we need, we go to a second step, which will be escalation to another. We highlight it to another group that may be able to help. We highlight it, and it's all political at this point. We highlight to a third group that may be able to apply more pressure because of the numbers and the size of that majority and all that sort of thing. And at the moment you're talking about discussions you're having. There's no steps, there's no plan.
And there's no time frame.
And there's nothing written down. You talk about a process, there's no written down. These are the steps I must go through to escalate matters. And if there is something written down and there is a process that we should be following, please let us know.
Well, there's nothing written down. It's basically following a progression of things to do. But I see no reason why I can't try and get county council and the borough to understand the situation and see whether they're able to put any pressure from their point of view or from a different angle. That's all I can see at the moment, because it's unlike a legal case. You know where you are, you know where you want to try and get to, and there's legal things in between. Here, based on the verbal legal advice way back, we have got no legal rights.
we've
They
already
followed
discussed that, Nigel. We don't need
I
to
know
go through
exactly, but the MOD have followed the bylaw. They've enclosed somewhere. They've put signs up. That's
They
what the
followed
bylaw
their
says.
interpretation of the
It's not
bylaw.
right. Sorry.
They followed their interpretation of the bylaw. There's no definition of enclosed area. There's no definition of when a lot of these definitions that Peter, if he was here, would go into. There is an interpretation of the law that is an understanding, and I'm not going to argue the fact that we've got legal implications. What I'm trying to get to is the process that you're going to follow to escalate this process, escalate this manner.
I've already explained that. I can't keep going around in circles saying the same things.
But you haven't told me what the next step is. When we don't get a response next week, what are you going to do?
If I don't get a response by the 21st, I will send a email asking for a response, because that's what you have to do in the society that I have to work in terms of the political side. I have to follow certain procedures, and I can't go to an MP and say, "Oh, you haven't answered the letter. Give us an answer." That doesn't get you anywhere. You may think it does. It doesn't get you anywhere. You have to follow protocol.
And what is that protocol?
Protocol is to ask for a response. He will give a response. Whether it's a response that we like is another matter.
Okay, so you're going to send a letter on the 21st if we do not get a response by then. How long are you going to wait until we do something else about that?
Probably another month or less, possibly around a month probably. But I would need to hopefully by that time I would have had something back from Michael, because Michael would also be putting pressure on Jeremy Quinn to respond as he did before.
So a year after the Rangers have closed, we finally got you're willing to send a second letter chasing up why have I not a response?
You've got to remember that your time scale is different to mine. Mine, in terms of my time scale, things started going pear-shaped with the MOD in September when they gave conflicting stories. Then I did FOI. I'm sorry, but you're trying to steamroller me and the parish into doing an action which, in fact, I don't know what you actually want to do. You're telling me I've got to do something, but you're not actually telling me what. I'm sorry, but you're coming. You're basically. We followed what we need to do. We've caught out the MOD, and now we're waiting for the minister to see if he will see sense and actually be sensible and get the MOD to talk to us and open up the ranges in an acceptable manner for the public to use.
Let me go through the timeline again with you, Nigel. Ranges was closed in April.
I know what the timeline is. I've been living with
no communication from Ash Parish apart from they closed it. There was no public discussion on the matter until September, when we instigated a public discussion. There was no feedback by any of the Ash Parish Council, the MOD, or our ministers until our instigation. Now, in September, we got the conflicted information. In September, we approached you with evidence, and we went through a series of meetings to get to a point where the council are saying we don't agree with the closure. The council did not do any chasing up of this information. It was all provided to you by our group. And then
the council, just to put this right, the council has never agreed with the closure. The council has never agreed with the closure. We've always been working to try and get the firing plates opened. We just haven't been working at the speed that you would like us to, because we try and follow a particular protocol, because we feel, and from, as I said before, from verbal legal advice, we haven't got a leg to stand on. So the only way for us to try and get a resolution is by discussion and hoping and trying to get them to see sense. Now, the bylaw consultation, that still hasn't come out. Jo has got her name put on the formal list now.
Been through this, so well, let's not go through this again. And let me finish my sentence, because you interrupted me.
Yeah, well, we're going around in circles.
No, we're not. I'm trying to understand what you think as a council is the appropriate timescales for escalating this to and give us a plan for escalation. And at the moment, you basically say you're going to write another letter after 2 months of them receiving the first letter. Do you think that's appropriate?
Yes.
Do you think our parishioners think that will be appropriate?
It depends if they're told the truth or not in terms of how processes need to go through.
But I'm also after the process. You've just got some understanding of how it should work from your political career. I understand that. You're more
political career, but my working career. And
I am trying to get to a point where I understand that process because it's not written down, and we're in a discussion that is going round in circles because the parish council can't give us the next steps.
But the parish council is doing what it can at the present time to try and get the MOD and the minister to see sense and to make some sort of change to allow access. Okay. I can't say that, you know, after X number of days, the parish council can organise a demonstration, organise with bolt cutters to get through the gates. We can't do things like that. We're doing what we can. If you've got other sensible options as to what you think we can do as a parish council, which doesn't conflict with legal and other avenues, we'll try and do that.
We can do those things that you mentioned. We have chosen not to because we believe in following due process. But you have to admit that when due process takes a year and we are still no further in understanding the real reasons for these closures, we are still no further in getting the ranges reopened, I have to question, you know, it's the very definition of madness to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So at this point, taking some of those more extreme measures that you talked about seems like the only different avenue open to us. I very much don't want to take that avenue. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't want to be otherwise. But what if we are continually being stonewalled at every turn? What choice do we have?
But everything that the parish council has done has been progressive in terms of moving from one step to another. And at the moment, that step that we've got to is where the minister wrote to Michael, who sent the letter on to me about it, and MOD and DIO answered my FOIs. That has now progressed to the next stage. I don't know whether that progression is going to bear fruit or not. And it would be, to me, to actually work out what the next step we're going to take, or should be taken, or could be considered to be taken, without knowing what's in that letter, it's wrong. It's wasting time. You say a year has gone by. To me, it's 9 months, but it's still a long time to get something resolved. But you know, we have done what we can so far, and even if you talk to other people who may have, such as county council, it's unlikely they're going to come back and say, well, we're not going to do anything until we know what Jeremy Quinn says.
Yeah.
Okay, what I propose is that we bring in more of the Ash Parish Council and we discuss it as a group. We've always tried to be open about this and discuss it, but honestly, I think we need to make a decision as a community about what the next stages are. So I propose a larger meeting involving more people to understand how we can approach this. If we are getting no further in what we expect, we should be doing something different. We are not going to repeat the same mistakes and do something that is going to be, if that means raising it with the Guildford Borough Council, if it means working out how to get it more publicly available, so be it. But at the moment, all I'm getting from Ash Parish Council is this process that I don't understand, and there's no forward steps that I understand. It's just nothing is apart from waiting, and I don't think that's good enough for your parishioners.
It's obviously your view. The larger the meeting, just it's going to go on for longer. It's not going to actually make any resolution, because until we get a response to that letter, and to be honest, writing an aggressive letter to an MP to get an answer isn't the way to get a response, as I've discovered in the past, or other people have discovered in the past, and I've seen the results. I'm as frustrated as you. In fact, I'm more frustrated because I spend a lot of time, which you aren't aware of, behind the scenes trying to do things with the MOD to try and resolve it. And to say I was bitterly disappointed following that September meeting is an understatement. To me, we just went back to step one, which is why I say we're following this next procedure. I'll see what I can do with the county, but I don't think they're going to be interested because the legal side is they will look at the bylaws. They will probably get their internal legal to have a look at it, and I would fully suspect, but well, I can ask him to do that. I fully suspect they'll come back and say exactly what I've been told by verbally by legal people over the phone about the situation. So to me, it is a question of negotiation. I agree, putting pressure where pressure can be, but it's going to be pressure in the right way. But the MOD have a responsibility. They own the land, and they are covered by the reasons for why that land was sequestered 150 years ago by the War Department.
Well, I think on that score, Carl, we need to reopen our discussions about a judicial review. I think it seems logical that we pursue the legal as well as the political angle in this, because simply pursuing the political angle is getting us nowhere extremely slowly.
Yeah, I agree. And
well, it's not political. The MOD are not political. The MOD are doing it for what they see are perfectly reasonable service.
Which they can't justify, Nigel.
They haven't been able. They've given reasons. They've then changed their mind, and they haven't been able to give the evidence.
They have fabricated reasons, is what they've done. They fabricated reasons because if the evidence was clear, they'd be falling all over themselves to wave it under our noses. And
that's the very point I've made. If you've got this information, why not take the sting out of the tail and provide it to everybody?
Because it doesn't exist.
This is the bit I can't understand. If there is, they've admitted they haven't got the evidence for the training hours because of the way they operate, but they have admitted they've got the information in respect of the vandalism and
no, they haven't.
Safety.
That's wrong.
That's what they said in the letter to me.
It's a letter to me that said they can't provide that information. That's the email that I sent
to me. They said they've got it, but it under FOI. You've got the number of hours and time it takes.
That's not what they sent me.
Okay.
They're not available to do that. I've sent you that email.
Well, I've shown you my letter that I got from them, the FOI response I got from them, which clearly says we have the information, but. So you're getting.
I'm not going to get into that debate again because we've gone through that so many times. If they had the evidence in a spreadsheet to tell us where the 172,000 came from, then show it us.
Yeah,
and they can't.
They said that it was corporate knowledge, which just means they made it up.
So
they've said.
As a private citizen, how do I raise concerns with my borough and my county council?
You would write direct to initially the leader of the councils, I would assume, in terms of what the problem is and what you want them to do.
So there's no forums like there's obviously Guildford Borough Council meetings. Can I, as a private citizen, be part of those? And ask a question like I do at Ash Parish?
There is an option for public speaking at the beginning of all borough council meetings. I'm not sure about county, and I'm not sure if the public speakers are purely on items within the agenda. I don't joke and remember. I'm not too sure what they're all. The person to initially contact about what the criteria is for speaking at the full council is someone called John Armstrong. Yeah. He's the Democratic Services Manager, and he controls the running of the council, public speaking time and things like that. In terms of public speakers, when they turn up to speak, normally it's about items on the agenda. They have 3 minutes to make their point. That's what happens at Borough
Okay.
Council.
So
Right, so it's john.armstrong@guildford.gov.uk.
okay, I'll do that then. I'll try and get that onto the agenda. Is there any other groups that you think would be of consideration for a county level?
Not at the moment. I have to have a think about off the top of my head. Can't think of anybody. Because I'm not involved in county. I don't know who the people are to speak to at county regarding access to their full council meetings. I know they had a full council meeting today, but I don't know when the next one is.
You said
Guildford
you were having a
Joint
meeting
Committee-
with.
Sorry?
You said you were having a meeting with somebody from Surrey County Council tomorrow, was it?
Yeah,
Could you ask that question?
I can ask the question. It's part of a group that meets irregularly to talk about issues that are arising, and it often it can be, we can use that as a sounding board for things that are happening and get a sort of view. What do you think we can do? How do you think we can approach this? So that's what I'll try and do, because at the end of the day, not everyone's got the answers to everything. So to me, if someone asks someone who may have a better idea or another way of skinning the cat, as it were.
So just to summarise then, you're going to raise that at the meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're going to send reminders to Michael and to Jeremy Quinn about the letter if you haven't received a response by the 20th of February, did you say?
21st, yeah.
21st.
21st of February. In the meantime, I will pick up with Carl about expediting the judicial aspect of things, and we'll look at judicial review, and we'll look at the legal side of it, and we'll also look to get it on the agenda at Guildford Borough Council as well, as private citizens.
I won't be sending a reminder to Michael on the 21st because I've already written to him on the 3rd.
Okay.
I will certainly do a reminder to Jeremy Quinn.
Yeah.
And I may actually send some sort of reminder to MOD and DIO on the basis that I sent you this this letter.
Mhm.
You haven't given me an acknowledgement. Can you please confirm you've received it? And have you got any comments to make? But the letter was addressed to the minister, not to them, so they may not feel they need to acknowledge it. But it doesn't do any harm just to keep that pressure up.
Indeed.
That's what we're after. Political
Okay, then.
pressure. Right, thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Sarah
thank you
and
very
Kate, do you want to stay on for a little minute?
Yep.
And we'll just
Yeah,
have a quick
but-
catch up.
Sure, then.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
very
you,
much.
Nigel. Thank you,
Okay.
Joe.
Bye.
Good night.